A Uachtarán, a Codlacia, a Viclain, a Corja, Bawalom, a Carnuldoiv, a Caden Mila Falcha, Gujigan Okach Spashilta Inyo. President, colleagues, students, friends, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you on this special occasion, the launch of the NUI Galway Access Centre. I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Liz Thomas, and Dr. Elaine Keane, who will present on our research findings in the afternoon, and to our Vice President, Dr. Pat Morgan, who will officially launch Dr. Keane's report later today. We are really very proud to have current and past students of the different services delivered by the Access Centre to speak to you shortly about their experiences of NUI Galway. We are delighted to welcome so many of our partners within NUI Galway and also to see so many of the external groups that the Access Centre works with. Here today, our partner link schools at primary and second level, the further education sector, other higher education institutions and voluntary organisations. And now it is my great pleasure and honour to invite our President, Dr. Jim Brown, to formally launch the Access Centre.
Parmagat na Melda, a Corja, a Colaca, a Gusina, Boala Merdus, Fajus Fair Coro of Galer, Gujino, Katsun Sukshaw, as Winchek Sholo and Togra in Tukshaw, and a groupie over the Kela, con service Nis Farah, Corafod, and Mikli and the Hulskala Shaw. Could I first of all welcome you here this morning to this important occasion when we launch a new integrated service in the university to provide a better service and a continuing very good service to our students. This university is committed to access, and that commitment is expressed in a number of different ways. A big part of that commitment is what we're talking about today. There's also commitment to adult learners and to part-time learners to the work that's led by Nuala McGuinn. I want to recognise that also because in some sense they're somewhat complementary activities, but each of them I think in their own way, in their differing ways, if you like, confirm our commitment to what are often called non-traditional students. Universities are often accused of being elitist and of only seeking out students from a particular socioeconomic background or a particular attainment in education. I think what we're trying to do here through both of these schemes, through our Access Centre and through adult education and continuing education, is to ensure that all peoples, whether young or old, have access to education. And that I think that's a really important statement that this university makes and tries to live up to in terms of our activity. And no doubt that what we're launching here today is a big part of confirmation of that commitment. I think we have done well over the years. I think we've done well in this area, and I think we can be very proud of that. And I know we're going to hear in a few moments from 3 students and hear their experience, and hopefully they will confirm that the university is doing its best to ensure that all students have full access to our facilities. So I look forward to hearing from Conor Wade, from Katie O'Halloran and Michael Hardiman. I also know we're going to hear from Liz Thomas, who I think I've met before, and who is certainly a world-renowned expert in this area. We certainly have a lot to learn from her about retention and about how to, if you like, ensure that students do get the very best service and have the best opportunity to realise their full potential. Also, Elaine will talk to us later about her research on the programmes here, and that will be interesting, and I look forward to hearing about that. I won't be here to hear it, unfortunately. So that I think it's a tremendous programme when we're hearing both from the students who are part of the programme, from those who have analysed it, namely Elaine Keane, and somebody who's a world expert in the whole area of access and retention and so on, Liz Thomas. So it is a very fine programme. And again, I think it's a statement of the university's commitment to this very important area. We have always sought, as I've said, to support participation in higher education. And we've done that because we recognise that all citizens are entitled to higher education. And in fact, if we don't offer that, and we don't meet that entitlement, our society loses. We know there's a lost opportunity from people who don't get access to it and who can benefit from it. And from that point of view, I think our university realised that it's both a public good in terms of the development of our region and our society, and also a private good in terms of the rights of individual citizens to have full access. We know also that this particular region has got its own challenges, and those challenges relate mainly to a dispersed population, a dispersed rural population, and our access programmes has to, if you like, meet those requirements of public and private welfare, while at the same time dealing with a very challenging environment in terms of dispersed population. But I think we've done that successfully in recent years, and we've done that through promoting programmes which are targeted at individuals and which are offered in cooperation with academics in the university and also with external partners to ensure that we get that, if you like, that service to dispersed populations. The HEA term these students non-traditional, and that's perhaps a term that's not really explanatory, but I think we know what it means. And for us here, it means essentially access programs for school leavers from disadvantaged backgrounds and disadvantaged schools, and access programs also for mature students. And that's achieved through a set of outreach programs in the region, in places like Ballinasloe, in Connemara, in Sligo with cooperation with St Andrews College. It's achieved through foundation programs, particularly in areas of business, science, technology and engineering. And those programs are offered in cooperation with GMIT, and I welcome that cooperation. I welcome that as a good use of resources to provide for the needs of our region. Those activities are also supported through HERE, which is the Higher Education Access Route, and also through a set of programs in primary and secondary schools where we, for example, have a university trail program and a program called University for You, which are aimed at schools in our own region, particularly JESH schools who perhaps need that extra support to encourage students to look at university as a route for them. What's happening today and what we're launching today is the bringing together of a set of previously dispersed offices into a single office. And what we're doing essentially is combining the traditional access program office with mature students office and disability support service into a single unit of access. And not alone are we combining them, we're also bringing them into a new premises in the university, RSC Cahill. So they all work together, they all work with each other, and I think they provide a single point of access for students and also a single point of service for those students. And that's tremendous, I think, and it's tremendous that we have now, if you like, a critical mass of people across those three areas working together for the betterment of our students. I think it provides a better framework from all points of view. What has not changed, and this is important to say this, that in integrating those services, the same level of service will be provided, that there is still the commitment to dealing with students with disabilities, mature students, and students who participated in access programs. So we retain that commitment in spite of, if you like, creating a larger organisation and seeking efficiencies in terms of how the service is delivered. But we remain committed to delivering all those services, and we do that through a set of team members who are dedicated and who offer to offer the very best service to our students. Why is the access programme important for the university? It's important because, as I said earlier, we know that we have a responsibility to individuals and to society to ensure that everybody in our society has full access to full potential. We've committed that through our compact with the HEA. The Higher Education Authority now require universities to indicate what their strategic priorities are, to set out targets in those areas, and then have them evaluated on an annual basis. And we have made quite stretching commitments, and we've set quite stretching targets in terms of access, in terms of widening participation, and in terms of lifelong learning. And those are cast in stone in our strategic plan. They're cast in stone to the HEA. Only last Friday we had a session of 2.5 hours with the HEA where they went through our strategic plan, went through our targets, and in effect challenged us in terms of how we're meeting those targets. And I welcome that. And I welcome that, I feel like, that level of oversight, and I welcome that level of commitment by the HEA to participation for a wider group of students. And I certainly want this university to meet the challenge that it presents to us. And we've done that, as I said, through very, very imaginative outreach programmes, through the commitment of our staff to work with agencies outside of this university to ensure access for everybody. So at the highest level of the university, in terms of our statement as a university management team to the Higher Education Authority, the access programme features and the targets are clearly there. Our strategic plan was launched some months ago, Vision 2020, and that firmly commits us as an institution to addressing social inequality and widening participation. And it also sets out some stretching targets. I suppose that the headline target in that plan from an access point of view is our commitment to have by 2020 24% of undergraduate students coming from traditionally underrepresented groups. So we're saying effectively by 2020, just under 1/4 of our students will come from what would broadly be defined as access program. That's a very strong commitment and a very different culture of a university from perhaps 20 years ago when that figure might have been 5 or 6%. And I think it's something that we can be very proud of. Right now the figure is approaching 20%. So we've come a long way in those years, but it's for the next 4 or 5 years. It's it's going to 25%, 24%, which I think is a strong statement of commitment. So what I'm really here to do is to assure you of the university's commitment to this area, of the university's support for this area at the very highest level, of our commitment not just internally here, but also to our funding agency to meet targets in this area, and to commit to you our full support for the work that you are doing in the access activity across the university, both in what we now call the Access Centre, and I welcome that integration, and what we call Adult Education Continuing Professional Development. All of that is strongly supported by the university. We're often accused of being very research-oriented, and we certainly are research-oriented, but we are clear also on our responsibilities in areas like this. And as I said, the target 25%, I think, speaks strongly to that commitment. I also want to welcome the fact that we have two keynote speakers here for the afternoon. Unfortunately, I won't hear them, but I think it's good that we, having set these very high targets, having created a very good centre internally, that we hear from the researchers as to what has gone right in the past and what we need to perhaps change, but also that we hear from outside the institution and from outside the country what is best practice internationally, and make sure that we fit with that, and that if you like, that research and that best practice advice guides our programme of work in the centre, as I'm sure it will. Could I finish by acknowledging the dedication and commitment of a number of colleagues who have been central to the success of access in this university over the years, and also to the successful integration of the various strands of access that have now come together. I want to recognise the Vice President, Dr. Pat Morgan, the Director of Student Services, John Hannon, but particularly the staff who are directly concerned with these programmes. Obviously, Imelda Byrne, Mary Surlis, Trish Burke, Kathleen Hartigan, Helena Moran, Laura Newell, Aisling Palmer, Catherine Duffy, Denise Keaveney, Jane Gilmore, Anne O'Brien, Anne Cahill and Colin O'Dwyer. And I thank all of you for what you've done for this university in terms of the students who have certainly benefited from your work. And I look forward to continuing support from you for those students into the future. I wish the newly integrated centre every success, and I look forward to us meeting our target of 24% non-traditional students in 2020. Garmina Maki, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, President. I'm honoured and very proud now to call on three of our students to talk about their experiences of the various services within the newly established Access Centre over the past number of years. We have Conor Ward, Katie couldn't be with us today, and James kindly stepped in this morning to talk, and also Michael Howley. So I'm going to call on Conor first of all.
Good morning, my name is Conor Ward, and I did the Access for School Leavers in 2007. From there I went on to do a BA in English and Spanish, during which time I had a fantastic opportunity to go back and work with my old primary school through programmes such as Uni for You, which are run through the Access office. After my time on my degree, I went on to do a Master's in Strategy, Innovation and People Management here in NUI Galway, and once again kept close ties with the Access office when I worked with partners such as Josephine Walsh in the Career Development Centre when I was appointed the first EU Careers Ambassador here in the university. That has led me today to, I suppose, work with one of the largest IT firms in the world. It's a company called Citrix, and we're based in Dublin for our EMEA headquarters, and I'm working in an account management position. It's all afforded to, I suppose, both my degree and my Master's, considering that I'm working in the UK and the Spanish markets. I'm very often asked by people back home, what did the Access course mean to me, or what did I think of it? And the easiest way, I suppose, to describe it, with its size, it's very easy to see NUI Galway as a town inside the city. And for me, the Access office is my home inside that town. The staff and the course have afforded me opportunities that I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for them. And for that, I'm very grateful to Imelda Byrne and all the staff. And it's great to hear the commitment from President Brown today for the continuing success of the course. Thanks very much. Thanks
very much, Conor. And I'd like to call on John Cunningham now. Thanks, John.
Took the long route. I ended up in Access by the strangest way. My daughter wanted a sausage. And I was a stay-at-home parent for 11 years with 4 kids, and I was leaving the 3 boys to school. My daughter demanded a sausage. I went into the petrol station to get one, and there was an ad on the radio for Access. And I always thought I could do a 3rd level course, but I always knew I would never have got the chance. I am the first person from my family ever to have gone to a 3rd level institution, and it was a huge step. So I applied for Access. I completed the interview and met Imelda and Jane, and I joined a nice group of people in Ballinasloe on the Access programme, and I realised I wasn't alone. I also at this time discovered that apart from having physical disabilities, I had intellectual disabilities as well. And it was only when my eldest son was diagnosed that I realised that all the boxes they were ticking for him rang a bell with me, and they resonated deeply with me that I had the same problem. And between Access and the Disability Office here and the wonderful help I got, especially from Denise, systems were put in place to enable me to reach my potential, what I was able and capable of doing. And I could not have done that without Access and the disability support services here, who were fantastic. And Access don't cut ties with you when you finish. They maintain a relationship with you and contact with you, and they remember things you wouldn't expect. They remember details about you or your family, and it's a very homely and comfortable entity. It's very nice to deal with Access. And even things like when we're doing our Access exams, Kathleen sent us an email wishing us all good luck. Now, up to that, I hadn't met Kathleen. But this was the first exam I had done in nearly 30 years. And to get an email from somebody you never met wishing you well was great. So I talk about Access to people I meet, and I say, you should give it a try, because it is a fantastic system. It's the best show in town. And you will get support, and the lecturers are fantastic. You get little incremental benefits when you see how you're doing with your assessments, and it gives you little shots in the arm to keep you going. But I'm a very, very staunch believer in Access and the supports that I have got here from the Disability Support Service. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, John. And finally, Michael Howley? Hardiman. Sorry, Michael. Apologies.
Probably it's not a name you should get wrong in the university. Hello, my name is Michael. I'm from Dublin originally, but I left Ireland when I was 20 and spent 20 years abroad, so I missed the boom and came back at the beginning of the slump with 3 children. And I'd spent 15 years in Brazil and learned to speak Portuguese and worked as a translator, teacher, interpreter there. So I thought when I came home I'd find a job easily with the CV I had. But without a degree, I couldn't. And like John, a chance encounter with a hitchhiker who was a mature student here ended up with me turning up at an open day and going to the mature student stand and finding out about the MSAP exam, which is the mature students applications pathway. And I was advised to do that, which I did. I got a very good grade, and I was the first mature student to be selected as a student of denominated psychology in the university. But I didn't fulfil the SUSI requirement of 3 years residency, so I had to defer. The deferral wasn't guaranteed, but I came back in, spoke to the mature students officer, and got great help and backup, guaranteeing that my place would remain available. And then when I came back to the Return to Learning Week, which is a week for mature students to come back, have the college to themselves, get to know the place and get orientation. I met people like John and some people other people that are here today, which took the intimidatory part of coming back to college away, gave us a base, gave us friends, and we're still a tight group today. And I think we've all had practical, moral and sometimes even emotional support from the staff who deal with mature students. And I think we make a huge contribution to the college, and certainly hope that numbers can increase over time. And I was saying to John earlier, like, there's light at the end of the tunnel for us now. I'm starting second year. I got a first in my first year, and as John was saying, I hope it's not a train. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Conor, who travelled from Dublin actually today as well to speak to you all. So really appreciate that, and to Michael and to John, and indeed to our President for coming along here today. And it's wonderful that we have the commitment from senior management in relation to the work that we will be carrying out over the next number of years within the Access Centre. So we're going to take a few photographs, if you don't mind. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll start session 2, which Dr. Elaine King is going to chair within the next 5 minutes. So if you can bear with us, there's tea and coffee on the left-hand side, and we'll start again in a few minutes. Thanks very much. Thanks.